BlogTalk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. And before I get going too much further into this, I hope the sound is coming through clear. I know that we weren't able to do this last time, but I think it was because I had parked the car next to a big antenna that I didn't know was there when I parked it, and that may have been what was causing our interference. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Julia, as she was here last time, and she's reprising her space with us this day. And I'd like to welcome Santara, Her Holiness, the Celtic Queen of Questionable Comforts. Santara, are you online? Are you listening? Wake up. Wake up.
Yes, Chrism, I am listening. The sound is good. That's great. So I think it's all go today. Hi, Julia. Nice that you're here as well. So I'll begin as usual, Chrism, with just giving out the web address for people who want to make a donation to Kundalini Awakening Systems. And that address is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and up in the right hand corner you will see the donate button, and it's very easy from that point on. And just again, as I always say, there's absolutely no pressure on anybody to donate. It's not expected, it's not a requirement. Yet people do wish to donate. That is the address to go to, and donations are gratefully received, because this is how the CAS, the Kundalini Awakening Systems, CAS for short, program can continue with support such as we receive in donations. So again, it's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. And do you have the chat room there, Chrism, in front of you?
I do not. So I'll be depending on you for that, okay?
Okay, well then, again, just to say hi to everybody in the chat room, we have Celestial Rubies, Julia, EDG, Fashg, MJ, and Leonard, or Leonora, I think. So, and a few numbers. So, so if anybody there wants to ask a question, please type it in and I can read it to Chrism for you on your behalf. And if at any time the sound goes off, please do let us know. And maybe somebody would let us know if the sound is okay now before we begin. So yeah, Chrism, that's it for me.
Shall I wait?
Nobody's typing, so I think it's fine. There's absolutely no interference. They may be all still. Elizabeth is typing. It's really good, she says. So okay, thanks, Elizabeth.
Okay, well then we'll go ahead and get going. I'm gonna bring Rosemary on because I believe she has some announcements she would like to make. Hello, Rosemary.
Hi. Yes. I would like to extend a very warm welcome and invitation to anyone interested in attending our seminar in Minnesota here, February 21st and 22nd. It's here at the Best Western Hotel, directly across from the airport. Very easy to get to by that means. And I think those are the main things. My information, it's Rosemary G at usinternet.com, and my phone number is 651-452-3161, and always delighted to speak with anyone about this event, about Kundalini, and about its power and presence in our lives. So thank you, my dear teacher.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, whether you be alive in the chat room, hello everybody there, or live as you're listening on your computer without being in the chat room, or as you're listening in the archives, if you're interested in more of this information, you can go to the YouTube network and you can type in Chrism.Kundalini or just Chrism Kunalini, and about 300 videos will come up. You can also go to the Facebook network and you can type in the search window Kundalini Awakening ! Or Kundalini Healing, or Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, or Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, or Kundalini Radiance Community, and those communities will come up for you. We are also on the Yahoo network at Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at yahoogroups.com, as well as Kundalini Healing on the Yahoo network, and we are also in Google Plus with Kundalini Awakening ! So please feel free to participate in those areas as well. Today, I'd like to discuss what we were trying to discuss last week, which didn't work out too well, and once again, I'd like to apologize to everybody for that. Evidently, there was a big antenna that was pulsing right through our signal, and this is why it came out so garbled. And so once again, apologies to everyone for that. The subject I was covering last week was a fairly important subject of what it is to have the Kundalini in your life, but without having it expressive as you're a child. In other words, what karma you need to burn through in order to have Kundalini. And often this will happen within the person's childhood, where you have no control over your life. Your parents control your life. Your siblings, have a level of control in your life. Whatever family member, whatever adult guardian, these are the folks that have control of your life to a large degree. And within a Kundalini awakening paradigm, sometimes these levels of karma can be somewhat difficult for people. You won't feel like you belong anywhere. You won't understand why so many bad things are happening to you. Your level of confidence will constantly be pushed back, constantly be stepped upon by other people, siblings, friends, schoolmates, teachers, bosses, family, parents. All of these things may happen for a person at the same time, and it may develop into a fairly strong negative validation for you yourself as a person. And yet the Kundalini within you will probably keep you going into it, keep you pushing into it, allowing you to feel this way for a time. But I want you to know that if you're listening to this conversation right now, if you're having a lot of negative self-conversation, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of detrimental, amused comments about yourself in normal conversation, or in any of the other ways that people self-deprecate in order to fit into what they perceive to be the appropriate sociological environment. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. You're done with that. And you probably could have been done with it a long time ago. Okay, you needed to have that karmic disparity in order to burn that karma, in order to, make enough karmic space for you to come in to the Kundalini. But once you're there, you no longer need to hold on to that negative self-talk, that negative self-dialogue, that negative self-perception. I'm going to suggest that you get rid of the negative inner dialogue, that the self-deprecating inner dialogue that might be telling you that, oh, you're just not good enough, or oh, you're just not pretty enough, or oh, you're just not strong enough, or handsome enough, or talented enough, or smart enough. Because you are. You are. You are. And I don't want you to allow the karmic burning, the karmic balancing that you had to do in order to come to the Kundalini to affect you in a negative way. Okay? And this isn't just with childhood. This goes into adulthood as well. You begin to attach to people that have a karmic burden that matches your karmic burden. And so even though it may not be the same karma between the two people. They work together in order to burn each other's karma. This would be a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a friend in general, or a boss, someone you're working for, someone you're working with. If it's a spouse, well then, yeah, you're going to go into a level of deep karmic balancing, and this is not always easy. Once again, it may feed into levels of self-invalidation. And so you needed to go through that. If you're listening to this right now, and you're in a relationship, and this relationship isn't going to be supportive of the Kundalini, it's not going, it may not have even been supportive of itself for however long ago. Well, maybe it's time for you to make that change. Maybe it's time for you to galvanize yourself behind and with that inner divine that we know of as the Kundalini. It's time to support your Kundalini awakening. You burned the karma necessary to do that. You balanced it, you burned it, however you want to express it. The karma has been in some way taken out of the picture, or you wouldn't be having the Kundalini right now at all. Okay, you wouldn't be able to even hear this conversation. But you are hearing this conversation. You are hearing it, and you can go back into your own childhood, and you can visit all these difficulties. You can visit all that hurtful self-perception. You can look into it, and you can see it, and you can kind of connect the dots to how this was occurring for you and how it needed to occur and what you learned from these experiences. I had very hard teachers. You know, my parents were married 5 times apiece. You know, and that's not counting all the dating that was going on and all the different things that were going on with regards to attracting, you know, one of those 5, right? So you know, I got to see a level of sociological development within a spousal possibility from an early age. I got to see these things, and I don't feel it harmed me at all, but it certainly gave me a level of information that I didn't have, or I wouldn't have had without that type of a scenario coming into my life. And I'd like you to revisit some of the childhood memories that you have, some of the difficult ones where maybe you were beat up. Maybe you were abused. Maybe you had severe levels of torture and sexual abuse and mental abuse, emotional abuse. You know, all of these things also figure into a Kundalini awakened karmic balancing in the early years equation. Not everybody's going to get the same thing. We all come into this life with very, very unique levels of karma. So not everybody's going to be abused in the same way or challenged in the same way. And so don't expect that. It's not like you can go, oh, well, see, look, I've got my abuse cards right here, and let's see. Oh, gosh, I have the mental abuse. You lay that card, and and I've got the emotional abuse. You can't do that. You can't play that against each other. Okay, and they're really not to be played. They're just to be recognized and let go of. Recognized and let go of, so that you can get rid of this attachment that many people have as they move through their karmic balancing. And you're going to hear some noise. Lasha's playing with the window blind, so forgive us. So as you come into your Kundalini and you move through it, you don't need to attach to these past life histories anymore. Now, it looks like I may have a question coming up here at Centaur. If you'll please come on.
I go check that now, Chrism.
Thank you. And remembering 2 weeks ago, everybody, you know, we may, you know, people may, you know, say some unfortunate things. I don't have a 5-second delay here. Maybe we should explore getting one, so that we don't get, well, you know what happened the last time, but anyway, we'll just go ahead and take the risk and make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, if that is the case. So, continuing onward, it's very, very important that you detach from these childhood experiences that were detrimental to you. And definitely in that detachment, also look at what they did positive for you. Now, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard if you had a level of severity of childhood karma that allowed you to be abused and physically, sexually, emotionally. It's going to be very, very difficult to find positivity there. And I don't want you to get hung up on, oh my gosh, I can't find any positivity with this. Just let it go. Let it go. Forgive the situation and acknowledge that this was needed for the Kundalini to come to you from the time that it started to be noticed by you to this very moment that you're hearing this interview. You understand? You no longer need to be the effect of your karmic balancing. I'll say it again. You no longer need to be the effect of your karmic balancing. It's done. You made it. You survived it. You don't need to worry about that anymore. And you don't need to attach to it anymore either. Let it go. And open yourself into this new grace that is the fruit of some of that suffering. When you're balancing karma, you're basically getting blockages out of your way. Past time scenarios that are being taken out of your path. That's what the karma is about. Whoa, hang on. This is Lasha once again. So you don't need to have that occurring. Now let's see. Santara, I noticed the person left.
Yes, Chrism. She was looking for a reading, nothing to do with Kundalini awakening.
Another reading. Yes, of course. Well, blessings to her, and blessings to you, Santara. Thank you for fielding that call. So, as you look at your childhood and you look at the severity of the difficulties, and Kundalini people, typically will have had a very, very, very difficult life within their level of sensitivity to what occurred to them. I.e., what was difficult for me wouldn't be difficult for Santara. What was difficult for Santara may not be difficult for Julia. What was difficult for Julia may not be difficult for Eileen or Rosemary or Fashti or Julie or anybody. Okay? Well, that's what I went into a little bit before, is you can't compare abusive cards. Our karmas don't match up because our very being, our very physical being is designed by our karma in order to have specific appreciation for those qualities that will balance that karma. Our bodies are designed that way. Divinity knows what our karma is, and it sculpts and helps us to sculpt our body, in a way that allows that karma to be appreciated and balanced. Appreciated, meaning felt, and balanced. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about this or any other subject within your Kundalini awakening equation, I'm going to invite you to call in. The number is 347-934-0026. If Lasha had paused, she'd be dialing that number right now. Let me tell you, she is a little upset that I was gone for a week, and so I'm making amends as fast as I can. Yes, exactly. So if you have a question, call that number 347-934-0026, or if you're one of the beautiful, wonderful, happy people in the chat room, please type out your question and hand those questions to Amelia Santara. Let her read them out, and I will do my best to answer those questions for you. With regards to the karma, it is a very, very, very broad topic. All the different difficulties that people have within a Kundalini awakening context, all the karma, all the different opportunities of abuse that a person has. You know, are they born rich? Are they born poor? Are they born rich and they're abused? Are they born poor and abused? None of this is accidental for Kundalini people. Kundalini people have to balance this karma. They have to experience this karma. They have to experience this karma. So when you understand that, and you look back on your childhood, no matter how difficult it was, no matter who did what, why, when, or any other reason for that karma to be appreciated, it helped you to be where you are right now. So I'm going to really suggest to you in a very, very strong way to let it go. You may not be able to forgive it. I'm not going to ask you to forgive it. I'm going to ask you to detach from it. Do not let it have any kind of a further effect upon your current life. You may have gone into drugs when you were a teenager. You may have gone into some forms of crime. You may have gone into self-destructive activities. That's all done. You don't need to constantly step back into the past and try to bring that into the present in order to find a way to give reference to your current Kundalini awakening scenarios, because the Kundalini awakening will make you very, very, very sensitive to certain forms of abuse, certain forms of yes, my dear, certain forms of tactility that have emotional resonance. I want you to understand that. Kundalini is extremely sensitizing. And you'll remember the abuse that you went through as a child with the Kundalini coming up to you. You'll remember that. This is Lasha that you're hearing, so please excuse her. You'll remember this, and you may want to focus on it more than you should. Don't focus on it anymore. Allow it to pass. Allow it to pass. Let it go into the past. You've balanced it. You've experienced it. By experiencing it, you've balanced it. Especially as a child. Remember, a child doesn't have control over whether or not that karma is going to be balanced. It's going to be balanced based upon what happens to that child at the hands of the adults around them or family or whoever. That child will experience that karma. And as that child experiences that karma, it gets balanced, because the divinity that is, behind the karma in the first place, and in this case that would be Kundalini, the divinity behind the karma in the first place, in many ways controls how much that person is experiencing with regards to the karma. Okay. So you will be balancing it as that child that you were. As the child that you were, not as the child to the Kundalini that you are now. You went through those gates, and a lot of people hang on to those gates. They hang on to that drug addiction. They hang on to that negative self-view. They hang on to that self-deprecating behavior. And I'm suggesting in this conversation that you let it go. Let the wisdom, let the compassion of the Kundalini fill in those spaces now. Let your current level of understanding, of feeling the Kundalini surge through you. Let that fill in the blanks. You are no longer that kid. You have the memory, but you don't have the reality anymore. Let the Kundalini work with you on this. You no longer need to be attached. Now, Julia, This is Julia. For those of you that are on any of the Facebook groups, Julia is a fairly prominent writer on the Kundalini Awakening group. And Julia, have you had any kind of an experience with regards to this topic of having early childhood karma balanced in order for you to have the current level of Kundalini that you're having?
Hi, everybody. I think so, yes. Yeah, definitely difficulties in my childhood. My parents divorced when I was very young, 3 years old. I got sent off to a boarding school when I was 7, and that was actually an interesting experience. There was a lot of spiritual training that came with that, so maybe that's a different thing. Yeah, definitely.
Did you have difficulties with other kids at the boarding home? Did you miss your parents? Did you miss your other siblings? Did any of this occur as you got sent away? Did you feel abandoned?
Very, very homesick, especially the first year.
And how did this materialize in your behaviors?
Well, I think I was definitely feeling depression very early on from a young age.
And how did that manifest?
Just as a sadness, becoming quiet, maybe not feeling as good about myself as I might have.
Did you develop negative self-communication responses?
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you give me an example? Just for people so that they can know what they might be doing as well.
I think just feeling unworthy of a certain level of love or attention and feeling like I've got to figure it all out by myself, And I had some very strange mystical experiences starting very early on, and so that was difficult too, trying to communicate that to people and not being understood at all. In fact, I went through all kinds of testing. They thought maybe something was wrong with me, so that was very, very painful.
Well, this is true, and I have not touched on this yet, so thank you for bringing that up. Certainly, as a child, Kundalini people will have the phenomena associated with Kundalini occurring to them if this is the second time around for them, or if this is something that is a very, very strong pattern of probability for the person. That child, during this process, during this area of life, balancing of the karma can have some of the Kundalini awakened mystical experiences or spiritual experiences or feelings or phenomena that occurs. And of course, if the child is brave enough to tell anybody, a parent or a friend or a sibling or a family member or a teacher, well, then that child may also go through a level of disenfranchisement simply because the society that we have in the West right now doesn't recognize any of this. Did that happen to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you tell me how?
Well, actually, I went through all kinds of testing, medical testing and psychological testing when I was 7, and even was hospitalized for about a month because they were trying to figure out what was going on with me. And I had a sibling with autism, and they thought maybe there was some connection there.
So they were looking for autism. Of course they would. Yes. So know this, everybody who's listening to this, you're not necessarily autistic. And if they do label you with Asperger's syndrome or something like that, as Julia has so graciously informed me, that's more a quality of neural diversity rather than inability to phrase thoughts or act upon ideas or formulate ideas at all. Can you tell a little bit more about neurodiversity, Julia, within the context of karmic balancing?
I think, in my own family, there are a lot of people who've been diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And what I see with them as very, very intelligent people, but they have to go through a long process of learning and maturing. And once they do, they seem to have more capacity available to them in their, just a greater mental capacity. And I think that might be part of it. Who knows if this is some sort of evolutionary step that some people are taking, and once the Kundalini becomes active and working with the brain, there's greater capacity in certain areas. I don't know.
Well, the Kundalini is certainly an evolutionary step, and if neurodiversity helps a person house the Kundalini and helps them to come into balance with the Kundalini, then I would also see that as an evolutionary step as well. A lot of people just won't fit in to today's society, and that's also a factor as well. We constantly try to fit square pegs into round holes, and vice versa, and this doesn't work for everybody. And in many ways, that can also be a Kundalini karma for a child, as they're forced to sit still in a class or to learn in a certain way that may not be conducive for that child. The Kundalini karma is always there looking, is this that part of the karma? And if the person is dealing with that, if that is becoming a very strong resonance and active principle within that child's life, then I will suggest that the Kundalini is indeed behind this karmic balancing. Santara, wake up. I know it's late over there. I know.
I'm here.
It's like 11 o'clock at night over there, isn't it?
What time is it now? Yeah, 11:30 p.m. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm going to give you a yawn time. Go ahead, yawn.
You don't give me a moment to get to my mouse, bring the cursor over to the red and blue. It's not instantaneous.
The fact that you're using a mouse at all, oh my gosh. Anyway,
yes.
Have you had experiences in these areas?
Yes, indeed. I spoke a little bit about it last week, actually. Very similar. First of all, just to say, I had what would be seen as a very good childhood. No divorce, happy family, lots of siblings. So there was nothing in that sense that was, traumatic, let's say. But in terms of just my everyday living, when I was a very small child, I had, like what Julia is saying there, I had lots of mystical experiences. I was very close to God. I had a deep love for God. I was very different to my sisters. I had to hide a lot about, what it was I was experiencing. And when I would have shared some of these things with my mom, they weren't really accepted and it was invalidated. And so it was very difficult. And I used to have a lot of dreams and things like that when I was a child, and those were often ridiculed when I would, speak about them.
And I think you, myself, and Julia have shared all of that, and I'll wager that many, many, many other Kundalini people have shared those exact same scenarios, Santara.
Yes. And so, then I suppose what happens then is, what happened for me, when I look back, I can see I began to relate to the world, and my ego developed, I suppose, based on those responses. I felt very invalidated in so many ways. I felt very... but I respond like authority and things like that. I began to respond in negative ways to that in school. And I became quite, I used to do a lot. I began to develop a sort of a deceit in a way. I began to project what I wasn't. I wasn't myself. I wasn't allowed to be myself. And that was something that definitely resulted as a development of my personality through what had happened when I was a child,
Right.
Yeah, and when I was a teenager, that was very difficult at times.
Oh, yeah, the teen years, those are very, very karmically developmental years. Have you been able to detach from all of this? Have you been successful there?
Yes, I think so. Even when I got married young, and some of the karma and things that I can see now continued into my early marriage, and even a fair bit into it. And so there was a lot of things still, karma still being worked out. It was interesting what you said about people coming together that are, what was it you said, that have the same karmic
resonance?
Resonance or burden, or we matched, I think. I look back on it now and I can see that as well, but it developed well, like we're still together. Things have, I'm well supported now in my Kundalini awakening process, but that would not have happened had I had my Kundalini awakened 20 years before it did. Does that make sense? I had a lot of things to do first.
No, absolutely, and I want to just shout out a congratulations to you and to John, your husband, and for all the hard work that you've done, working on the marriage, nourishing the marriage, nourishing children and nourishing the Kundalini at the same time. Both of you have done very, very an excellent job, if I may say so, from the outside looking in.
Well, yes, we have worked. We have worked hard in it, I think. Yes, yeah. But I mean, it is amazing, Chrism, when you look back and when I see things. I thought there was an awful lot wrong with me. I mean, really, that there was something wrong with me for a very long time when I was growing up and when I was a child. That I was I was a bit of a freak, really, and that takes a lot of. There's a lot of forgiveness to be done for what was done to you, and there's a lot of self-acceptance and forgiveness that I had to do for myself as well. Because being invalidated constantly is not easy.
Yeah, people are crushed. You're crushed every time you have a success. You're crushed. Every time you make a mistake, you're crushed. You can't win for losing sometimes within these karmic balances, and you're not supposed to win. You're not supposed to win. You're supposed to have that level of a crushing experience in order to begin to loosen up those karmic variables that are in many ways holding a person down. When you're a child, the Kundalini works through you so that when you're older, when you're an adult or young adult, you can have the Kundalini come to you. You've experienced the karma. You've balanced the karma. Therefore, the divine grace is allowed to come through in a less hindered fashion. And yes, there still will be karma to burn. Don't get me wrong. It's not all taken care of in childhood, but a certain amount of it is. It's the amount that we don't get to control. It's the uncontrolled karma balancings that happen to us when we're kids. Later on...
It's the help... Oh.
Go ahead. You were saying?
I was going to say, it's the helplessness, isn't it? It's having no control over what's done.
No control over your life at all. Yeah. You have to eat what's on the plate in front of you, and I mean that literally in many, many, many different aspects of, you have to eat that plate, and even if you don't like it, especially if you don't like it in many cases. And so, yeah, it's that lack of control that you have over it as a child and as a young adult. But what really people must begin to make the segue into their awakening and to begin to detach from these old paradigms, from these old problems that can often stick to us. And so for all of you who are listening to this in the archives and live on your computer and live in the chat room, look at yourself and detach from this. You are no longer the effect of the karma that you balanced as a child or a young adult. I don't care what drugs you did. I don't care what crime you committed. You're no longer attached to that, unless you wish to be. And if you wish to be, maybe it just wasn't painful enough. Maybe there's more karma to balance there. Typically, a person will not wish to keep re-experiencing karma that they've already taken care of. The Kundalini will begin to change that channel for the individual. Okay. So if you still have an interest in drugs, or if you still have an interest in doing something harmful to other people or other things, let's not forget our fellow mortals, the animals, the insects, the fish, the birds, the reptiles, everybody. If you're still going out there and purposefully causing hurt and harm to other forms of God's creation, well, then there's still more karma for you to burn. There's still more work for you to do. And I suggest that you do it. And then you detach once you do it. You don't need to keep living through these endless vortex cycles of self-abuse. Start talking nicely to yourself behind your eyes. Start feeding yourself nutritious food. Start exercising yourself. Start thinking positive thoughts. Start going out and helping other people, strangers. Start doing these things, and you will begin to feel a definite lightness of your being, a definite response from your Kundalini within you as you do these things. Some of you are feeling it right now in the archives. As you hear these words, it's stirring your Kundalini in your spine, your Kundalini, your tailbone's going back and forth. I know this is occurring. It's occurred to too many for me to doubt it anymore. Okay. When you encounter truth from the Kundalini will often communicate that truth right back to you in forms of tangible Kundalini phenomena. Is that right, Julia? Have you experienced this?
Oh, quite often.
Tell me what happens with you. Let our audience know.
You know, one of the most frequent thing that happens with me is when I'm practicing devotion to you or you're teaching. I'm listening to your YouTube videos. I do get a lot of movement in my spine. It's almost an immediate confirmation that this is right. This is what I should be doing. What I should be paying attention to.
Right, and this will happen for people. If you're on any of the communities, you'll see people will write about this stuff. Pay attention to that. They're just not writing because they feel like they need to exercise their fingers. Okay. Have you felt this too, Santara?
Yes, Chrism. There's a constant response in my spine or in my back and also in my heart. Sometimes it just, my heart bursts open. I mean, it is an actual heave, and I feel, and I have bliss responses, or my head I'll have responses in my head. Sometimes, I will feel it in lots of different places in my body when I hear truth. If I'm listening to you in just here now and you say something that is particularly connected to me in my process, oh my gosh, the response that happens in my body is very, very tactile. It happens to my whole body. And sometimes, even when I'm listening to you now, it hasn't happened for a while, but it did happen on a couple of occasions. I will go into bliss as well, just listening to your words.
Well, I mean, yeah, that does occur. That definitely does occur. But I think it also occurs just when you have, say, a dream. A dream comes into your life and you realize, wow, there's this dream all of a sudden, and then the dream itself begins to materialize the essence of its message to you in your daily life. Have you had that as well?
Absolutely, I have. Absolutely. I thought we were speaking about listening on the radio. I have, Chrism. It's amazing how that, now don't ask me for an example because my dreams can be very layered. But they do connect into my life, and I do have a response when that happens. I can't give you an example.
Yeah, we're talking really, whether you're listening on the radio or not, whether you're listening on the radio, if you're watching YouTube, if you're reading it in an article, if you're listening to a person in front of you live, it's the Kunalini that responds to the levels of truth, whatever the vehicle that truth is transported on, right? It's the Kundalini that is responding to a person. And you might hear it here on the radio. You might see it on the YouTube. You might feel it from a person who is there in front of you. Like, say, if you come to a seminar.
Or even reading the groups. When I read Julia's posting there, she did a fabulous posting of her experience. oh my goodness, my Kundalini responded to the truth of her words and the authenticity and the just recognizing, itself, I think, in her words, it was quite a response.
Very profound.
Yeah.
She's had some very, very profound experiences here, and in an interesting way, her profound experiences have had a fairly sequential type of expression through them, which doesn't always occur with the Kundalini, but it has with her. She's had very, very sequential type of phenomena that would lead into another phenomena and answer the questions that the previous phenomena asked, the new phenomena would answer. And it's very, 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 very interesting stuff. And we'll be going into it a little bit later in this conversation today about some of the experiences that she had while she was down here. Apropos of that post that she made for the Kundalini Awakening ! Group. But I just, at this beginning of this conversation here, I really want to reintroduce what I was trying to say to you last week, everybody. The karma that comes to a Kundalini child is going to be severe. It's going to be hurtful in many, many, many different ways. And it will typically not be the same way for each person. Won't be the same way for each person. But that each person that is going to come into the Kundalini later on in their life will have levels of these karmic markers being balanced as a child, as a young adult, as a person who is not in control of their life. For many of you, this has already occurred. This is past for you. And for you, I'm going to suggest once again, detach from this now. Move on. Don't let any of this have a hook into you. The idea behind karmic balancing isn't so much that you can relive it over and over and over and over. It's more so that you can have a positive that equals out a negative, and boom. It's a tabula rasa, clean slate. Okay? You did your time because you did the crime. I mean, I'm sorry, I just wanted to use that rhyme. But yeah, you know, it's a clean slate. So forgive yourself and move on. And really, you don't really have anything to forgive yourself as a child. You didn't get to make a lot of these choices. Sometimes you did. But for the most part, you were innocent of it because you came in with this karmic burden to work through. And you worked through it. No longer let it burden you. No longer let it burden you. Now I'm going to do somewhat of a radical shift, and I'm going to come into some of the experiences that Julie has had while she's been here visiting at the ashram, and I'm going to make this shift simply because I want people to understand what it is like to have a flesh teacher that your Kundalini has assigned to you. Let's be clear about one thing. It is the Kundalini that is in charge. Your inner source, your inner force, the Kundalini, that inner divine, is what has given you an external flesh teacher. Someone who can take you into these areas because they know about these areas, because the Kundalini has taught them these areas. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let Julia describe some of the things that she's experienced here, and I'll jump in every now and again. Go ahead, Julia.
Okay. Well, I've been here for 2 weeks now at the ashram, and as Chrism was saying, I've been having a very sequential set of teachings and events that have allowed me to really understand some aspects of this Kundalini path and the connection with the teacher that Kunalini has brought me to on a much deeper level. So it really started with a dream that I had just over a week ago, where I, as I mentioned on the Kundalini Awakening group, I had this dream of this innocuous garden gnome, and what Chrism thought was happening was that I was being warned by Kundalini that I was going to be encountering some entity activity, and there would be some lessons involved with that. And this garden gnome was just a gentle way of warning me.
And why would the Kundalini use a garden gnome to deliver this message for you?
Because I like garden gnomes. I'm embarrassed to admit that, and I have some. And
what do you mean? So you collect these little ceramic figures?
I have a few. I have about 5 of them.
You have 5 little garden gnomes. Do you keep them on a shelf or in a garden? What do you do with them?
I have. They're out in my garden.
Okay, all right. Please continue.
So, but with this dream came some definite Kundalini phenomena. I was sort of half awake and half asleep, and I definitely felt very strong movement along my spine, and then the sense of, this garden gnome named Mr. Snow was coming, and I needed to be wary. He was an entity.
Mr. Snow, the garden gnome was named Mr. Snow.
And I have no idea why.
Well, I think I do. I think the Kundalini sacred feminine comes to a person within a very cold temperature recognition. Ice and snow. Sometimes when the sacred feminine is within you feel like your veins are filled with ice water. And so maybe Mr. Snow is just a nice, safe way of telling you that, this is from the sacred mother, the sacred Shakti. Just a supposition. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, so, and then at the end of this dream, I felt this intense shaking. It felt like the entire bed was shaking. So there was definite phenomena with this dream. And so a couple of days after the dream, we left for Yosemite. We left for our week-long trip, and the first stop was Yosemite. And so I was already sort of on guard, worried, oh my gosh, am I going to be encountering entities? What am I going to do? What's this going to be like? Am I going to be possessed? Is it going to be a really bad situation? And, even though having the teacher there, I was afraid. And so as we got to Yosemite, immediately I started to see entities there, somewhere.
How did they look to you?
The first one that I saw was, it looked like a tall, dark man off to the side. And as
Like 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall, what?
Maybe 6 feet tall,
okay,
the size of a tall man, and just a very shadowy kind of figure. And as I would turn to go look and see, he would disappear. And
so he'd only appear in the peripheral vision.
Right, but I could definitely see him there. And I saw him about 3 times.
Good, bad, happy, sad?
That did not feel positive at all. And then I did see a vapor coming out from that area that he had been standing. And I definitely saw that vapor.
With your physical eyes?
With my physical eyes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but I think I was seeing this man with my physical eyes too.
Sure.
But then later I saw it looked like a cat-like creature that came out of the forest, and that was more with my mind's eye, right? And then I saw this incredible shimmering in the air. It was.
Well, tell us about the shimmering. What's that all about?
That was definitely with my physical eyes. I had to blink several times to make sure that I was seeing it, and it was, effect of the sunlight and it coming down, and just this.
Is this something? Have you ever seen anything like this before?
Not like that. No. I mean, okay. I've seen a glowing and a sparkling, around me and all over the walls and things like that. But that's more with my mind's eye. This was with my physical eyes, and it was just gorgeous. Yeah. So I saw that, and.
Where did you see this now? Where the
that
shimmering?
Was in the meadow by the hotel, the Awani Hotel.
The Awani Hotel. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, everybody who hasn't been to Yosemite is a national park in the United States. It is basically a what they call a terminal moraine valley, which is a valley that is exceptionally flat. It's 1 mile wide by 7 miles long. The Awani Hotel is a hunting lodge hotel that was put there in the 1920s to cater to the rich and wealthy of the time. The Queen of England, a bunch of movie stars have stayed there. After World War II, it was turned into a psych ward for people that were having PTSD or post-traumatic stress syndrome from World War II. And so the entire 5th floor was filled with people that were having very, very difficult scenarios. And the hotel is strongly considered to be haunted. And I've had direct experiences. I lived in Yosemite for about 4.5 years. And on occasion, myself and some friends, we'd go up and we'd feel the entities that were on the 5th floor in the Awani Hotel. So I'm not surprised that Julia is feeling some of these entities that actually, dominate the hotel in a lower astral sense, and so that is all fine and good. I mean, this is not unheard of. I mean, even if you go into Ireland or England or France or Germany, anywhere where there's been some very, very strong emotional experiences, certain entities will not be able to detach from those experiences, and they will stay for a time. And a person such as Julia or myself or Amelia or other folks can perceive this consciousness. Now, as far as the rippling or the sparkling in the air, that's a different deal. Now, with Yosemite is surrounded by 4,000 feet of granite wall. Granite is composed of crystals. There are about, I mean, not right now, but when there's not a drought in California, there's typically 10 or 12, maybe even up to 15 waterfalls falling down the sides of the granite continuously. And then, of course, the wind comes through and it whips those particles of water around the circular valley in such a way that a certain level of vortice is developed. And that vortice and the energy of the vortice is also expanded by the crystals. And a lot of negative ionic action is formed. Negative ionic action forms very, very positive human emotions in people. And come on in, hurry up. Yeah. And these can also translate into levels of Kundalini phenomena. Nobody else would have been able to see what Julia saw. Nobody. Okay. And I wasn't even really looking at that. I was looking at other things with her. And so I just want you to know that do not discount the levels of phenomena that you see. No longer let that occur for yourself. Trust your Kundalini. Trust your process. Let it speak to you any way that it wants. And if it wants to speak to you, as it has with Julia, about entities in her case, and the levels of energetic sparkling that can occur in the air, let it speak that way. Don't invalidate it because science doesn't support it. Science doesn't support it until it has a machine that can measure it, and then, of course, science will support it. That's right, Lasha. I agree completely. Now, continue with your journey.
Okay, so later at Yosemite, we went to an area that had once had cabins standing there, and there I felt, this was more of a tactile experience, I felt just a really mean man there, someone who really didn't like women very much, definitely a misogynistic man, and just a very negative attitude. And then Chrism informed me that that's where the women's cabins had been. So somehow this entity was trapped there, but drawn to these women somehow because of his attitudes, his perspective.
Sure. That's in a part of the valley called Curry Village, and it's been known to be haunted for quite a while. People die in Yosemite all the time because it's this area of wilderness. It's a wild area where people of society have decided to come and visit. So you'll get a lot of people coming in from the cities that have no idea about what it is to live in a wild area, and some of them die. Some people come to Yosemite and their issues are so amplified by the crystals in the environment that they're forced to face them, and sometimes they face them in very difficult ways. People are murdered there, people get lost there, people are, all the various different ways that we manifest karma and we balance karma will happen in that one little 1 by 7 mile piece of real estate there in the middle of the high Sierras. And so then we left Yosemite. We took Highway 41 and we started driving towards Fresno, and we got a motel in Fresno and continued on into a city called Camarillo on the coast of California near Ventura the next day, and I was staying up late one night doing my laundry, and what is it that you felt when I would come in and out of the room?
Just every time you were in the room, I would feel really strong movement in my spine, and then as you left, the movement would just stop.
This is how a teacher can affect you. You have to understand that the teacher's energy is constantly going to be going through you and being a part of you, whether or not you're able to perceive it all the time, 24/7. A teacher's energy will constantly be moving with your energy, expanding your energy, helping your energy, allowing your karma to be burned in various and sundry ways, as I'm sure Julia would attest. And then we went to we went to Yogananda's lake shrine in Los Angeles and the Yogananda center in Encinitas near San Diego. What happened to you at the lake shrine?
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. We went into, there was a little gift shop that also had a little museum off to the side with some of the things that had belonged to Yogananda. And as I went in there, I just felt really drawn to this beautiful, beautiful wooden sculpture of the Virgin Mary. And she was from some Mexican town to the south there. And I stood there and I stared at it for the longest time. And I was just really, really taking it in and feeling just such joy looking at this. And then all of a sudden, this man came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "We're from there." And so he and his family had come all the way from the very town that sculpture of the Virgin Mary was. And so he explained that it was there in a church there, and it was a little bit smaller in size than the replica was. And I just suddenly went into bliss, and I had to really hold it in. And I was just, I talked with them for a little while, and they were so happy to be there, and they were so full of joy. And I just felt so wonderful. And so I had to leave the gift shop, and I was just sobbing for a while because it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience to have that connection with these people that had come all that way, and they obviously had a connection with Yogananda's shrine, and just that they shared that with me. And that was the one thing that I was so interested in that museum.
Yeah, Yogananda's energy is very strong. His Kundalini is very strong there, and it does resonate with my Kundalini and the people that are given to me as a student. And this is why I take them down there. It's a very, very palpable energy, and every time I go there, I feel it myself too. And I also feel it at the one in Encinitas as well. And we went down there, and it very, very beautiful experiences down there in near San Diego. That night, we packed up and we headed straight across the desert towards Yuma, Arizona. And I want you to describe to the audience here what happened to you in that Motel 6 in Yuma, Arizona.
Okay, well, sometime in the course of that evening, I've been going through some testing.
What do you mean by that?
Well, my teacher had been pushing me a little bit, and my ego started to react very strongly, and I was in a bit of a pissy mood.
a pissy mood.
But not so severe. But I was feeling a little bit detached and a little bit confused, and my ego just wouldn't let up, and I was feeling a bit stuck with that. And so that night, when I went to sleep, I was not in devotion the way that I had been learning to do over these past 2 weeks, and I was not surrendering. And so sure enough, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up just screaming. And I remembered a fragment of a dream where I'd been at some party, and I'd been walking down the spiral staircase. And as I turned around to go down further, something was coming up towards me. Now, I never saw what it was, but it must have absolutely terrified me, so that I woke up.
She screamed so loud, I came into the room to ask her if everything was okay.
Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, it was very, very poignant, a very pronounced scream.
Yeah.
And there was no going to sleep after that. So we got up really early that morning.
Yeah, and then we went on to this incredible place called Painted Rock, which was out in the desert, and these incredible ancient pictographs on this big pile of rocks. And as we approached those rocks, I saw these entities. This one entity was just perched on the top, and I just saw it so incredibly clearly. It was like a gargoyle, and I could see its elbows and its knees were sticking out at these odd angles. And it didn't really seem malevolent. It seemed more like it was just there. It had been there for a very, very long time, and it was just part of it somehow. And then I could see off to the back there were these other entities that seemed more opportunistic, maybe more parasitical, maybe waiting to attach to people. That was the sense I got from them, that they just sort of wait in these places to attach.
And how did you feel when you were there at Painted Bronx?
I felt uneasy because, I just had that dream. I'd been warned about entities, and I was starting to feel really nervous, about this. But I realized, though, that the dream that I had had that morning, I probably wouldn't have had that if I hadn't been in that place, confused about devotion, resisting. Somehow I think that allowed a foothold for the entities to kind of come in and attach and start to do their thing.
Well, so then, because I wanted her to see she'd never been to the Southwest before, and so I wanted Julia to see some of that. And we decided to go into Tucson. We went into Tucson, then we came up north into Phoenix, and then we continued north into Sedona, and we had made a reservation at a motel. And tell us what happened then.
Okay, so just after getting to the motel, I had my things in my room, and probably within about 15 minutes, I started to get really, really scared. It was my body started shaking, and I started to feel like a deep fight or flight kind of fear. And I suddenly realized, the entities are coming for me. In this sense, I could see like swarms and swarms of entities coming from very far away to come towards me. And so I went outside to go get Chrism. I'm looking around, and there's entities everywhere. I can see them with my eyes.
What did they look like?
They were not friendly. They were very malevolent, very frightening, very big. So
I went into her room, and I sat at her table, and I gave her certain things to do. And what happened after I gave you some of those instructions, if you can say?
Yeah, it was really quite an amazing experience, because I remember I was in this deep, deep state of fear and just terrified that I was going to be possessed and that this was going to be a really, really bad situation. I was seeing them everywhere. And so I sat down and I started listening to this music that Chrism had given me from Hildegard of Bingen, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I started listening, and I started doing all the things that Chrism had instructed me to do in terms of devotion and really surrendering myself to Kundalini and to the teacher that Kundalini had brought me to, mentally with mantra, visualization, all these things. And I really, because I was so scared, I was really focusing. It was like a life or death situation.
So it's the one time that she's been really, really focused.
Yeah,
the one.
The one time. Actually, so, but I really had to. So, and as I did it, it just was almost instant. It was so simple. All you have to do is just focus on this. Don't be curious about the entities. Don't be fascinated. Don't get caught up in the fear. Just do what the teacher and the Kundalini are instructing you to do. And within a very short period of time, I was going into bliss. I was shaking, I was sobbing, and I was just feeling these incredible waves of bliss just going over me. And I don't know how long it lasted, probably quite a long time. And so I just listened to this music all night, for hours and hours and hours, and in and out of sleep. And when I woke up the next day, I just felt like it was a new dawn. It was just beautiful. I wasn't in fear. I felt like this doesn't need to be so complicated. I have everything I need not to be afraid. And so then, as we went off to Sedona. We went off to the Grand Canyon. I was seeing entities everywhere. That didn't change, but my whole attitude changed. And the fact that I was surrendered to Kunalini, surrendered to the teacher, and confident in that, and I knew that it worked. I wasn't afraid anymore. I could see these things, but I could remain, detached. and confident that I would be okay.
And there's that interesting linear aspect to your equation, which was basically Mr. Snow warned you that there was an impending entity encounter coming your way. And look what happened within the space of a week, actually within the space of just 4 days. You started having really, really strong encounters with entities, and I want to really, really underline this for people who are listening to this. The Kundalini will help you. It will talk with you. It will give you information. It will teach you, as long as you start trusting it, as you start listening to it. It won't do it the way it's been doing it with Julia. You know, we each have our unique relationship with the Kundalini. However, it will give you that information in the way that it wants you to have it in. So I really want to suggest that you pay attention to your Kundalini. Don't see it as a thing. It's not like a fork on the table. Okay? It's a consciousness within you. It's a divine consciousness within you that cares about you, that is trying very, very, from very many different ways to get you to recognize its divine self within you and what that makes you. What that makes you. Now, Julia had a very linear experience, almost like A plus B equals C. Not everybody gets that. And if you don't have an A plus B equals C or a very linear experience, don't go into doubt. Don't go into distrust. The most important thing, as Julia has outlined for you, is to trust the Kundalini. Trust the teaching that the Kundalini is giving you. Let yourself be given such strong levels of trust that the other aspects of negativity really don't have a handle to get from you. Trust so much that it eradicates your fear. Let trust in your Kundalini and the teacher it has assigned you to. Let the Kundalini pave the way for itself into you and for you into itself. Now, if you have any questions about this, the number is 347-934-0026. And for those of you who haven't read her account, she wrote this all out on the Kundalini Awakening group on the Facebook network. And I'm going to see if I can get her to do it on the Yahoo network as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to call 347-934-0026. And I'd like Amelia Centaura, the Celtic queen of questionable comforts, to come on board. There she is. Oh my gosh, she's dressed in red as we speak. Hello.
I'm here. Hello.
Now, what have you felt when I have been with you? And tell the people some of the experiences that you've had and how that has come to you. You've had a few, so I'm going to ask you. Okay.
I've had a few. Actually, I had one at the that I would like to just mention. Back when I went to Yosemite in 2010, right near that meadow by I don't know if you remember this or not, but I think it was similar, that shimmering. It was like in a diamond shape right up into the sky, and it was absolutely awesome. And I'm wondering, is it in the same place as where Julia was?
Oh,
that was an amazing.
In Yosemite, you say?
Yeah. It was near the hotel, and it was looking up at the blue sky, and the shimmering was in a diamond shape. It was huge.
Well, I think that it was probably the Awani Meadow, so yeah, it would be in a very similar location. Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
But I've had a lot of experiences in your company, Chrism, and I mean the most dramatic experience I had really was when we were in England, and I had the experience of you were downstairs and I was upstairs, and we were staying with somebody, and I had the experience of an entity in the bedroom, and that was absolutely terrifying. And
he died in the bed, and the woman didn't check him, so he lay dead in the bed for a couple of days, right?
But we never knew that until I kept getting in and out and trying to be okay and not afraid and, you know, being okay with it. But I eventually had to leave the room because, you know, he was beginning to really intrude on me. And the following morning.
She never got rid of the mattress, and so all of his juices and his body was kind of like seeping into the mattress, and she told us, so she says, well, you know, the mattress was so expensive, I just thought I'd just like clean off the top of it and just reuse it.
Yeah, but she had never told us any of this, remember, until breakfast. And then I had told you what had happened, and you said, did somebody die in that room? And that was when the whole story came out. Well, that was the most, that was very, you know, that was amazing. I've had other experiences as well where I shared before about the giant spider that was on guard outside the bedroom door. We were in a place in Tombstone. That's right. And there was this entity that I could hear going up and down the street, and the Shakti Kundalini was outside our door in the form of a giant spider, and I felt so protected. That was an amazing experience. And later that night, there were a lot of sparkles and lights on the bed as well. What else? Well, I've been...
You had some interesting sparkly experiences on that bed. I remember that.
I did. And also, you know, I remember one time I was walking with you. I think it was in Santa Rosa. We were walking from one place to another, and suddenly I saw all around you this amazing rainbow, and I went into bliss. I remember stopping and you turning around and going, what is it? And just being totally overcome with it. And of course, when we've been in castles, I've been touched as well as being aware of entities. I've had one or two, you know, very tactile touches from entities as well.
So all of these serve to really outline in various levels of clarity that the Kundalini will help you. It will walk with you. It's not, you know, people want phenomena. They want phenomena this, phenomena that. They want the powers. They want to have an edge. They want to have an edge over other people. It doesn't typically work that way, folks. I really want to underscore that for you. It can be quite frightening, as Julia's encounter. You know, I saw her after you know, she came and got me, and I came into her room. I saw her. She was terrified. Her body was shaking in fear. And this is not the most comfortable scenario for a person to go through. And you know, her success with the instructions that she was given and in fulfilling those instructions is a real testament, as is Amelia's. You know, because Amelia also received various instructions with these things. And it is a testament to the trust that you place in the Kundalini that these things will not come and get you.
And also, Chrism, because I've had experiences since, you know, back in Ireland and when I was living in Kerry, quite a lot of them, that trust that was developed with being with you and having experiences, that then made all the difference to me. It's exactly as Julia described there. You're not attached anymore to fear. You're you know, in surrender and trust to the Kundalini, and it doesn't matter that these things are going on.
Well, these are the areas that I wanted to cover today, folks. And I want to thank Julia, and I would like to thank Amelia Santaram for talking on these subjects. I'd like to thank Lasha for not being too disruptive today. You know, she's very interested in our trip, and she wants to hear as much about it as anybody does. I would like to say thank you for everybody who is in the chat room right now, who took the time to be with us. Is there any questions in the chat room at all?
No, Chrism, no questions.
Okay, very good, very good. I have to say I've had about 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep in the last 2 days, and so I'm going to really hit the bed early today, right now. But I want to say thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, and remember to detach from your early childhood karmic balancing. Remember to trust the Kundalini. Use the teachings from Julia and from Amelia Centaura positively. Let yourself trust the Kundalini, especially those of you inside of it right now. If you can make it to that seminar in Minnesota, both Eileen and Rosemary and Julia will be there. Other people from the Kundalini community in Minnesota will be there. And here is something for you to consider. There is a Kundalini community in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis area of Minnesota, United States. They get together at least once a month. They talk about their practice. They talk about their experiences. They're friends with each other because they came to the seminar, and this is, they really began to walk the talk of the information that was given at the seminar. And I'm going to invite any and all of you to come to that seminar if you can. Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez is also having a seminar in Washington, in May of this year. And I'll invite you to come there as well. These are very, very important things to attend. They allow you to find your Kundalini family, to feel them, to know them, to trust them, to work with them. And I really want to invite you to participate in these areas as much as you can. It's not common in our world to have a Kundalini community. And I just want to say, as an aside, that for a while now I've been looking for land to put a Kundalini community upon. And we have finally, an interested investor has found us and has contacted me, and we are now looking at land for this community to exist on. We're looking, and so if anybody knows, a couple of 100 acres, maybe 300 acres of land that's not too close to a city, that has arable acreage, i.e. you can grow food upon it, has water upon it, doesn't necessarily have to have any structures on it, that you feel would be a perfect place for a Kundalini awakened community to develop, well then please contact me at kfireforall, KFIREFORALL @yahoo.com, and I'll be sure to get back to you. I would like to thank you all for listening. And Centaura, do you have any last words for this episode?
No, Chrism, no, I do not. But thank you, and thank you, Julia, very much. And goodbye to everybody in the chat room, Vashti, Elizabeth, all the guests with the numbers, MJ, Diva Sadvi, and Lenora Gard. So goodbye, Chrism. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching or listening. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Yes, you interrupted me.